Hello. Welcome to our first episode of the Ladies' Room.
Welcome.
Hello, hello.
Hey, everybody.
So, I think we're going to just introduce ourselves in case you don't know who we are. I'm Allison, also known as the Mighty Librarian. I'm a librarian in real life. It's not false advertising. So, who's next?
I'll go.
I'll go
I'm Deidre. But I go by Disco D, Deidre74, or whatever, on different platforms. But I live in Texas. Probably tell by the accent. And right now I just kind of stay home and help because I have an autistic son. So right now that's kind of what I'm doing, dedicating some time and able to do this too. So I love it.
There we go.
So I'm Leah or Vagabondia, and I am also a librarian, but I'm actually an admin in public libraries. And I am from Texas, but I do not live in Texas. I'm now in Pennsylvania. And yeah, that's me.
Oh, Mighty Librarian, you're in trouble because you got 3 Texan women in here.
Oh, no. Help.
Yeah, I'm from
Help
Houston
me.
originally. Oh, Vixen on Blue. Hi, everybody. Just call me Vix. It's fine. I'm from Houston originally. Army veteran, disabled. I just kind of
Thank you
hang
for
out
your
with you guys all day.
Thank you for your service and all the veterans
Yes,
out there.
thank you.
I forgot to say I'm originally from New York, but I live in Southwest Georgia, also known as Satan's asshole, because it is already so hot. It was no, let me rephrase that. It was so humid. Like
That's the one.
I thought it was like easily 85 degrees outside. It was 62 degrees with like 90% humidity. I'm like, no, this is not okay.
It's awful.
How long have you lived in Georgia?
This is why I live in northern Pennsylvania, because I can't do it anymore.
I moved here in 2011.
Okay.
We went
That
to the
many
Olympics
years.
in Atlanta in 1996, and that was smack dab in the middle of the summer. And holy crap! I mean, Texas is hot, and it can be humid depending on where you're. It can be, but still, that was pretty hot too. It kind of reminded me of like the Metroplex, that Atlanta kind of in a way. It did a lot.
Derek and I have a rule that we cannot visit my family in any time other than spring or fall. Because the very first time he and I ever went on a road trip, we'd been together like 15 days maybe. And we went down to visit my family in Texas, 24-hour drive, just the two of us. This is when we figured out we were made for each other because we did not shut up the entire time. And every time we stopped to get gas, it was a little bit hotter and a little bit more humid. And we hit Texarkana at like 9 p.m. and it's dark as shit. And he's like, oh, it's going to be nice and cool. He opens the car door and it was like a wet mattress slapped the shit out of him. It was hilarious. And I was like, oh, this isn't bad. And he was like, are you fucking kidding me? And I'm like, it's the end of June. This is nothing. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Oh, by August, you'll be praying for death.
Oh, God. Yeah, for real. Hey,
I mean, you can
it's a lady show. Try and go through menopause and being in the summer in Texas. I'm like, look, I'm
being pregnant.
I'm just going,
I was pregnant in Georgia summer. That was pretty.
Yeah.
That was pretty rough.
So I was also born in Houston, Vix, and my mother was pregnant in 1979 in Houston in June, standing in a gas line because they were doing the gas embargoes, and she was like, "I'm going to have this baby in a gas embargo line."
Oh no!
Oh no!
Yeah,
that's That's bad.
He did not. Just to be.
No. Yeah. But Houston
is hated heat ever since.
Humid is.
Yeah, well, what happens is you get all the rain systems that come out from Galveston, and then they get on land, and then 40 miles in, they're Houston, and it just runs out of energy, and it just sits and rains for days. I mean, that's what is happening like right now. Did you guys see that around Livingston? It's flooding, and parts of Houston. I mean, Houston's always flooding, but
yeah, it's been raining a lot.
Yeah,
a lot.
Y'all check on your neighbors.
Well, that's because God is pissed off at the legislature there.
Yeah, they are.
Oh my God, they're out of their goddamn minds.
And that's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah.
So the good news is the Arizona governor signed a repeal of the abortion law from 56 or some shit.
64.
1864.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, which hallelujah, but I mean, do we think they're going to put anything better in its place?
No.
They got to get rid of because they're both their state House and Senate are both GOP run, right? Am I
I think
like,
so. Like,
so they gotta they can't really do it. And you know what? All right. So for all of you who don't know, I teach a course called That's Fake News. And, obviously I teach about disinformation and fake news. So within the first couple of weeks, we go over biases because really fake news spreads because of it plays on your biases and to make you react to something. This has a point. Bear with me. So anyway, there's one that I find really fascinating called the Semmelweis effect. And it's this doctor from the 1880s-ish who worked at a teaching hospital maternity ward and noticed that so many more women and babies were dying in their hospital than others. So he wanted to know why. So he concluded that if he washed his hands with this soap solution, that it killed germs. Germ theory hasn't been discovered yet either.
right.
And what he noticed that if him and his staff washed their hands with this soap solution, the infant mortality rate and the maternal mortality rate plummeted, because obviously we know now that the infection went way down by doing that. So he publishes a paper and it destroys his career. People think he's crazy. They think he's superstitious. He was a practicing Catholic, so his Catholic beliefs makes him believe this. Gentlemen don't have germs. They don't have these things.
Oh, man.
Okay,
So
I don't fucking care if it is magic. There are less people dying. So
anyway,
right?
So I bring this up. Why? Because it's a funny story. Anyway, he dies they put him in an asylum because they think he's so batshit with this.
Oh
then 20 years later, germ theory is, we discover, an infection. And, if you don't keep everything clean, people are going to die of infection in a hospital. Well, anyway, we're talking about a law that existed even before that dude knew that washing your hands with soap and water, prevented death.
And he didn't even know why it worked, because they hadn't discovered germ theory yet. He just figured out that why it worked.
Yeah. Well, he had an idea that he didn't call them germs. I forgot the word he used for germs, but he knew that he was cleaning. He knew he was cleaning him, but he didn't know about germs yet. But he had kind of an idea, because that's what they thought he was being superstitious. And remember, gentlemen don't have bacteria on their hands or anything like that. So of course not.
HPV virus would argue with you on that.
Yuck. Yeah. So I bring this up because this is even before that dude loses his medical career. He's probably being born, or maybe not born. Yeah, maybe born around the time that they're basing women's health care on.
Yeah.
Before they knew about germs and washing your goddamn hands, they expect us, or women of Arizona, to go by a law that, from what I understand, was only created because of some dude who wanted to force some woman he raped to have his babies.
Yeah, that guy's a piece of work. He had 5 marriages. Most of those were teenagers, some as young as 12. And he left each of them with several kids each and just moved on to the next one. The last one didn't like that he had so many teenage friends.
Oh, well.
These are the people who made the laws that Republicans want to go back to. Does that sound like someone with a good, understanding of good morals or anything?
I mean, that's the Victorian area. Nobody wanted to go to the hospital. Why do you think people were doing tonics and everything they could to not go to the hospital? Because doctors and everybody were proud of all this blood and stuff. And, didn't, they walk around with the blood on their apron and nothing's getting sanitized. And so
They
you're
would go
more
straight to
likely
the
to
influx
die
of
in the
surgery.
hospital than probably getting a tonic or whatever, because of infection.
Doctors
and
went to
sanitary.
you. You called the doctor, and
Yeah.
the doctor came to you.
Yeah.
Yep.
In a lot
That's
of
absolutely
places.
insane. And Vixen, I love that you mentioned that about how young his partners were, because at the same time that they're going back to this law that is so out of date, they're also going back to the Victorian idea of a woman being eligible for marriage as a very young teenager. And they're trying to pass laws allowing younger and younger
Yeah.
girls to be eligible.
Or as soon as they
for marriage.
menstruate. Why do you think they want to know when we're menstruating? I mean, it's all tied together. It's all stupid and gross and disgusting.
That's another
They
thing
want
we got to
children to
discuss.
drop out of school.
That is
And
disgusting.
yeah.
It's
Okay,
disgusting.
first super gross question of the night. How old
Can't
were
wait.
you when you started your period? I'll tell you how old I was. It was my 9th birthday. I woke up with that motherfucker. So was I ready to be married at 9? God, no.
My daughter
And
was 9.
your body wasn't
when
ready to
she-
carry a baby at 9 either.
Exactly.
It would have torn you up from the inside and maybe never be able to have kids as a full-grown adult, when you would be able to carry one. These are the things we're talking about, guys.
Yeah.
I was 12. It was the day before 7th grade. The day before my 7th grade year.
Oh, what a shitty
The day
way to start
before.
seventh grade.
And I had
If
already
7th grade isn't
and
bad
I'd
enough.
already had my outfit picked out. It was like a white denim skirt and all that stuff.
Oh no, you can't do that. No.
No.
No, I was 2 weeks before I turned 14. So school had just started. We were probably like, 'cause New York starts school way, way later than a lot of the southern schools. So I was born in end of September. So it was like 2 weeks before my 14th birthday. So I guess I would have been the oldest child bride. But my daughter was 9 in 5th grade. And one thing that horrifies me
My daughter was
about
6th
Florida
grade, 11.
is that, like, okay, you can't talk about periods in elementary school. Well, my daughter was in elementary school when she got her period. So let's say I don't talk to her about her period yet, or I just don't feel like that's something we should be talking about at this age. Well, her body doesn't give a fuck
Exactly.
what I think. It's going to do what it's going to do. So she has her period at school, doesn't know what's happening to her, doesn't
baby.
know that she needs like feminine products,
Probably
and
thinks she's
she goes
dying.
and she's probably thinks she's dying, and she goes to her teacher, and what's her teacher supposed to say? Sorry, kid, you're on your own.
Yeah.
I'd love to tell you, but I can't.
Yeah, and what kind of panic would that put into that little, little
Yeah.
girl's heart at
Humiliation.
9 when, like,
You-
your teacher...
the
I remember being
humiliation.
horrified
Yeah.
then and just having to maybe go up to the office and ask for a pad because maybe you ran out.
Yeah.
And because
like-
I would bleed a lot, so I'd have to change. Like every time class was over, I would have to change because it would just be like, grody. I know. I'm sorry, guys, but this is the truth.
We're not sorry. We have to go through this.
But
You have to hear about it.
Like I would wake
You'll
up.
be fine, guys.
I
You'll
would
be
wake
fine.
up and there would just be blood all in the sheet. It's like a crime scene.
So imagine a kid stains her pants or whatever. It's humiliating. Like, my heart aches for that girl feeling so humiliated, people laughing at her, and she doesn't even
Yes.
know what's happening to her.
You don't.
Because one thing that the GOP, like those lawmakers, like, they make laws based on the way the world should be. So yeah, parents should be talking to their kids about this.
But they're not.
Parents should, prepare them for, but you know what? A lot of them aren't. So what? You're just going to like kick them to the wolves, make it illegal. You're going to fire a teacher for trying to help a kid who doesn't know that that's her period. Like,
Well, and okay,
it just
three of
boggles
us
my
had
mind.
3 of us had health and sex ed in Texas, right?
Yeah.
Was so I had my first you're going to go through puberty in 6th grade. I started my period when I was 9. Thank God I have 4 older sisters, so I was already fine, knew what to do. And my mother was raised by a woman who refused to talk about any of that at all. So much so that she literally gave her and her sister a pamphlet from the doctor's office and said, here, this will explain what you need to know. We don't talk about it. This is a woman that had to have a radical hysterectomy, like around the same time, but would not talk to her 2 daughters about it. So my mother talked to us maybe a little too freely, but
my mom did, and I'm glad she did because I was the only girl. and I had two brothers that, one, so, I'm glad for that because I think her mother was kind of, I mean, Mimi, I just don't think she was like completely like that, so different
Yeah, but
times, I
imagine,
guess. But yeah,
imagine
but
if
I'm
you,
so glad that I was like
right.
somewhat prepared.
Yeah, so but imagine me starting my
Yeah.
period at 9. We haven't had the health class about it yet, talking about it. And I don't have sisters who have talked about it openly, and my mom talking about it openly. And I don't know about you guys, but we grew up in the middle of bumfucked Egypt. I mean, literally, we just kept moving to smaller and smaller assholes. But they put us in this little trailer, and they drew what looked like a longhorn on it because Texas. And they're like, "This is inside your body." You know exactly what I'm talking about, Vixen. I saw it on your face.
Yeah, I do.
Ovaries? Those horns are ovaries?
There's some guy who thinks that our uterus looks
some
like
man somewhere thought he was clever with
head.
that one. Oh my god!
And you're like, wait, that is inside of me? Where? But you can't ask that. You can't talk about it. And all the girls are going, oh. And you're like, and in my case, and in your daughter's case, you're sitting there going, that's not the important part. Like, I don't know about all that. But what I do know is that you're going to wake up one morning covered in blood and feeling like absolute garbage. And
or it can happen at school. What if our first time happened at school and she has nothing and she can't? I mean, only thing she could probably go is maybe to the nurse, but is the nurse going to be prepared?
In elementary schools, they're not supposed to talk about it, so she's on her own.
I know, that's bull.
Like,
bull.
But okay, so I guess I'm the Yankee here. And I grew up, like, where I grew up was a very, like, at the time, I don't realize this, but looking back, living all over the country, I realize this now in hindsight, but the school district I went to was very, very progressive, like very, very, very progressive. We started learning about this stuff a little bit in 4th grade because girls start and boys start, their bodies start changing. In 5th grade, girls went to a male teacher. No, boys went to a male teacher. Girls went to a female teacher. Sat us down. They showed us what a pad looks like. They told us what to expect. It was very clinical, very like. There wasn't anything like really I'm sure we giggled when we saw the pad, but like really it was just very, very clinical. Giggles. And there's always that one girl who, my daughter was the one in her class who gets it at, in 5th grade. And so you got to prepare them. And there's always that one guy who his voice starts changing like before everyone else's, and stuff happens in the middle of the night, so like they really prepared us, and we had sex ed all throughout, getting more and more details as we got older, but they even showed us how to put on a condom. And like, I mean, it was with like a medical mannequin, like, so it was clinical, but I mean, I almost lost it because I almost lost it. But because
how many Hunter hogs was it? I'm sorry, bad timing.
It was probably 3/4 of a Hunter hog. It wasn't massive, but it definitely wasn't like anything.
I'm sorry it's taking so long. It's just so.
Have to keep going here, guys.
But yeah, so I mean, nobody, at least to my knowledge, and I'm sure that would have spread like wildfire if somebody had, but nobody left school because they were pregnant. If they were pregnant, they either had it taken care of or they didn't leave school because of it.
Right.
But yeah, I fully believe. If you told me not one girl in my graduating class got pregnant in high school, I'd believe you. It sounds legit, like, because nobody.
God bless you, Yankees, because that did not happen in my school.
Not every school in New York is, even on Long Island. I grew up right outside New York City on Long Island, but if as you go further and further north, becomes like the least Stephonics district is where I used to go to college. I haven't been there in like 15 years, so it was pretty. It wasn't like MAGA. It was definitely not nearly as liberal as the city in Long Island, but I heard it's pretty MAGA now. So, New York's a big state. So, but at least my area of being a Yankee, um, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of reverse for I guess red states maybe a little bit.
Yeah,
Like I
I
grew up in
rem-
Harris County.
mhm.
Shout out to Boone Elementary.
That's
And
one of the largest counties in Texas anyway.
yeah,
So.
and it's a really multicultural county. It's one of the most diverse in Texas.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's also the county that Ken Paxton, the Texas state AG, he told Steve Bannon on Steve Bannon's show that he had thrown out hundreds of thousands of mail-in ballots from that county.
No accident.
He was trying to take
Correct.
over their
he
election.
admitted it. Like he
Yeah.
admitted that if
And-
he hadn't like disqualified like 200,000 ballots,
that
he said
would have
it
won the
in a narrative.
governorship.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But he
And-
did it to keep his buddy in power.
Yeah, and
he has
Biden would have
been-
won the state too, I
Yeah.
think he said. So
Yeah. And he spent his time punishing Harris County. Like they took all of the sorry librarians, they took all the libraries out of the Harris County schools
yep.
and made those spaces detention centers.
I mean, how
Yeah, and like they
blatant
took out
can you
voting
be?
places and like drop off boxes to where there's only like one or two in the whole county. Now, fact check me, everybody. They might have fixed it since then, but I don't think so because Ken Paxton is still, the asshole general of the.
And Texas makes it hard for you to vote by mail.
Well, they
period.
really fucking do. I mean,
So
they're terrified of your power, Houston or Texas. All right, they see you. They know that there's enough of you to get them out of power. All you have to do is rise up and take it.
you just have to get out and vote.
That's
Texas,
it.
Why do you
Yeah.
think why do you think they try so hard to pass laws on restricting voting, of non-existent voter fraud? Like even if you don't think that they're suppressing voting rights or whatever,
Yeah.
why are they passing so many voting laws? Like
any way they can to like box you in and make it so that less and less people are able to vote and pick who gets to have power.
Yeah, who is it that just wanted to pass that each household got one vote? So like if your husband be like
Charlie Kirk probably, I don't know.
No.
Right. So my parents were really weird. Like my dad fought in Vietnam, but he was like more of a dove, and my mother protested Vietnam, but she was definitely more of a hawk. They were very confusing politically. But anyway, my mother and my father took us to the polls with them when they went to vote. They always told us this is your duty as a citizen to vote.
Yeah.
You absolutely must do it. If you're called for jury duty, you fucking serve. Like this is your job. And they would go vote, and my mother would be like, "It's a secret ballot." And we'd be like, "Well, Mom, I know you're voting for so and so," and she'd be like, "You don't know that." And my dad would be like, "Okay, you can tell me," and she'd be like, "No, it's between me and the ballot box." Like she took that shit seriously.
I did.
I remember going with my mom into the voting because this is probably highly illegal now, but like when I was real little, like I remember like when they either had to punch the holes or like they had to flip the switches and then like you cranked it and then the curtains opens. Like my parents always voted. I always remember going with one of them or both of them to vote, and I remember wanting to like put like kids love to push buttons and flip switches, so I wanted to like
I'll never forget the first time I ever voted because I really had never been to the voting booth or anything like with Mom. They never would take us to do that stuff, but I remember going, I don't know what to do because it was you had to punch like holes, and I'm like, nobody told me how to do, so I'm just in the panic and going, oh crap, yeah.
I remember being like, because like obviously like they knew what corresponding switch or punch went to, but like as a kid you don't see it, so it like seemed like black magic that my mom knew exactly which levers to push or which.
Maybe if we told people that voting was like black magic, they would be more interested in
that.
Oh, I know, right? Oh,
yeah.
burn us at the stake,
I mean, wouldn't it have been nice if in school they had taught you how to vote, like how the voting machines work, or how you can go on, right, or how you can go on ActiVote or Ballotpedia and learn about the candidates and determine who to vote for and all that kind of shit, and then you could go in there prepared with a voting plan. And instead, they taught us mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Like We all have that core
I
memory.
was too
but
old.
Mm.
Like
I have
the
never
internet
used that.
was just coming, like just being invented. So I'm a little old. So
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like they. I think they did that because they don't want people to vote. Why would they go and get a young person to vote? Because they're going to be probably a little
they're
bit more.
stupefying the nation.
Yeah,
Why
they
else
are.
would you get rid of libraries and make them detention
Yeah.
centers? Like,
Yeah.
why else would you restrict people? Like in
And that's so
Idaho,
funny, because you're literally taking a place that's about freedom and turning it into a prison.
Yeah, it's not
Turning the
freedom,
library into a
people. That's
detention
not
center. That's
freedom.
in
And take
Idaho, they're the governor or the state one of those politicians is refusing the infrastructure for the broadband to be for rural areas.
All
He's
right.
refusing that money. Why do you think they don't want rural people to get
information.
the information? Why do you think that is? Like, I wish people would, especially if they're diehard Trumpers, like, why do they not want you to have broadband access? It's not free.
Or
It's just
books.
you're able to then like purchase a subscription from whoever is your provider. Like some areas you can't even get a subscription to pay for. So it's
Right.
not communism, it's not socialism, it's just money to build the infrastructure so you have the option of broadband versus I think in rural areas your only options are satellite or dial-up, and
Yep.
those suck.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
like why don't they want you to have those things? And
Yeah.
they're trying to dumbify because we're too, even though like there's some pretty stupid people in this country, we're pretty smart as a whole. We've been taught like things. They'll try again to bring fascism.
Well, and that's
Full.
part of the funding the libraries is because that's a hole that we fill is providing the broadband access and the internet access to that area that may not have it, or the household that may not have access, or providing them some critical thinking skills like you teaching about misinformation and so forth. I mean, they got to shut that shit down and if they have to lie about what they claim is in the books that we're giving kids, okay.
Yeah.
Or take it out of context, absolutely. Why not? And it's like, really, guys? I mean, what you're really afraid of is that child that has always felt different and always felt left out is going to find a story that resonates with them, and they're going to say, I'm not a freak, I'm okay, and I don't need to take my life, and it's gonna, you know what I mean? And like, we can't have that. We can't have them thinking their own thoughts and shit like that.
And they're trying to take us back to the dark ages. I'm like, sorry, you've already let us out. You can't put it back in the bag, dude. I mean,
we've been fighting for this too fucking long.
I mean, you're gonna
especially for women like that might be listening. Like they took us back so far. Like we are back.
I mean, I live in a state right now. Of course, I'm not sure, but total abortion ban, y'all. They will put people in jail.
And so, like one thing that I wish that the Democratic Party it would do as far as messaging when it comes to abortion. I think I've told you guys this, but I haven't shared this like with anybody outside my little circle of friends. But like I wish they'd like message it as, and granted, it should be our bodies, our choice. It should be about what we want to do with the consultation of our doctors. That's what it should be. But that's not the reality of like, and people don't see it that way. So I wish was marketed as, because people don't think it's healthcare. What do you think happens, during a miscarriage and your body doesn't naturally take care of it? It's a technical abortion. It's
a DNC, which is an abortion.
It's
and that's so much of the problem is that they're using the word abortion, and what they're talking about is ending the life of a fetus. They're not considering all the procedures that fall under that umbrella that are about removing the already deceased.
Because you'll go septic and blah blah blah, and like the lady in Texas, the Cox lady, who that after all that she went through and sepsis and ICU and almost dying. And and all of this stuff, she may not even be able to have, and she wanted kids, and she's so scarred she probably will not be able to have kids.
It's going to be very difficult for her to, and then,
And,
you know,
and
some
that was
women,
so unnecessary.
yeah. And
Yeah.
some women, like, just for whatever reason, they have quite a few miscarriages.
Yeah.
I'm lucky that
Mhm.
my one and only pregnancy was just fine, you
Yeah.
know, like, and, you know, like when they like with late term abortions, which aren't really abortions,
Yeah, they're just
like
birth.
it's usually a tragedy that's happened. Like
Or-
placental tear is
Yeah.
the most common injury for pregnant women in car accidents. And once a placental tear happens, if you don't get that baby out like immediately, it's suffocating to death. And
Mhm.
they want
That
you
happened with
to
my mom.
carry that dead baby in your womb. Like, could you
Come on.
imagine like having to, like, just think about that. Dudes, think about this for a minute. Having to carry a dead baby inside you because some asshole in the state capitol or in Washington, D.C. doesn't like it that,
Or doesn't
you know,
understand.
It
or doesn't
doesn't-
understand. I'm sure they understand just fine, to be honest. Like, I think they play dumb. Some probably are dumb. Most probably know what they're doing. And like, it's because it's not about healthcare to them. It's not about saving babies. It's not about anything else but control.
It is.
They
Control,
want
period.
control. And, you know, they may
Well,
not
and
even
wouldn't you love
realize
to
it.
see them extend this amount of resources and energy on something that would actually help women? Like, oh, I
Right.
don't know,
Research.
processing unprocessed rape
Yeah.
kits, or
Yes.
solving serial rapists, or all the domestic violence cases where women have put in PFAs repeatedly and then end up eventually being killed by that partner that they have the PFA against. Like, how about you spend some of that money, energy, and resources on all of that shit?
Yeah.
And then maybe we'll want to have your kid. But like, you know, like
make it
because-
affordable. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how people afford more than one child because I have
hard.
one
Yeah.
child and I cannot, I don't have the mental bandwidth, you know, now it's just too late, but like even before, like I didn't have the mental bandwidth, I didn't have the financial bandwidth because I can either give one kid pretty much everything they need plus, you know, some cool things that they want, or like you divide the resources smaller and smaller. So like I don't see like daycare.
Oh,
I mean,
daycare so
there was one
expensive.
point where my daughter's daycare, when she was like bitty, you know, like infant, toddler,
Yeah.
it was more than my rent.
Mhm.
I'm not kidding. My rent was $650. Daycare was $695 a month.
Yeah,
That's
I have friends that I went
insanity.
to college with degrees, really good jobs. They got pregnant, and it was cheaper for them to stay home with their child than to go back to work. They put their
Mhm.
career on hold,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which they chose to do as well. But part of it was a financial decision. It was the only way they were going to be able to afford to continue.
Yeah,
And
I
then you
mean,
could explain why you were out of the job market when you do go back to work for all those years. And it's like, well, I was raising kids, and they're like, well, you chose
Yeah,
to do
I mean,
that.
kind of like
You'd
me.
be
I
like,
was
did
in
I
the job
know?
market, and then my youngest was finally diagnosed with autism. We're having problems, and my husband's traveling all the time, and nothing's going around. I was like, I made the decision to go, okay, you know, this is what I got to do. I mean, that's what you
So-
do. I mean,
and you know, it's not like people, especially like I guess the older Gen Xers slash boomers. Sorry, boomer. I don't, because a lot of our friends are boomers. I don't mean to sound. I'm just trying to give age ranges.
mhm,
Like my parents had it completely different having kids than I do. The dollar got them way further.
mhm.
Wages, like I did like a wage calculation of what, like if wages kept up with inflation, I should be getting paid like a third more to be where like the inflation level of like what my parents had. And then yeah, I could be really comfortable, like not like rich. I still wouldn't be rich, but I could save a little. I could get, you know, I wouldn't struggle, like I wouldn't panic when my daughter has to get like a costume or a uniform or
Yeah.
something expensive that,
Mhm.
you know, it makes it damn near impossible to like save. And I mean, I make a fairly decent salary.
It's hard.
So like, I mean, you know, they want to act like, oh, they're how?
There she goes.
Like, are you gonna? All right, so let's say you make the U.S. Gilead. Are you gonna make it so wages equal? Like, because you're gonna put people in poverty,
Mm.
and homeless if
Yeah.
you expect us all to live on one salary. And
Well, they're trying to make homelessness a crime now too. So
Yeah.
you can't win.
like, what are a crime? What, you get incarcerate them then? Like,
Yeah. Basically, I
it
mean,
got-
you
Yeah,
can't
'cause
sleep
then you can
outside.
then you can exploit them for, next to nothing labor costs in a for-profit prison.
Yeah, legal.
You
It's
know,
gonna
and
cost
that's
way
why
less.
they've changed libraries to detention centers to increase the width, as it were, of the school to prison pipeline for children.
Sure.
I mean, that's why they are doing the school vouchers and trying to kill our public schools, because they don't want your kids to get educated.
They don't.
They want
They
them
use-
to go to work. They want them to make them
But
money.
their
and they
fucking
can
kids
pay them
will
less
get
'cause they're
educated.
kids.
Yeah,
Yeah,
their kids will
their
get
kids.
educated. Their kids will have access.
yeah.
Their kids will have access to an abortion too if they need it.
Oh,
But
absolutely. All the
if
right
their
for
kids,
them, not for
yeah, if
us.
their kid's assaulted, they will go to the ends of the earth to do something about it. But if you're
Mhm.
poor and your kid that happens to your kid, what were they
Yeah.
wearing? Why were they out? That
And
bullshit, that old argument.
Oh, I just lost it. I had a really good point about education and I remember. So like third grade, I don't know if this is for the whole country, but I know this is true for the state of Georgia. They estimate prison capacity need by third grade reading test scores. That's how they determine.
Okay,
Fucking
let's
grim.
unpack that for a second. If we know that you can determine prison capacity fairly accurately based on third grade reading scores,
Mhm.
that suggests, and I'm not saying that this is correlative or causative, but I'm saying that suggests that spending more on literacy would decrease crime.
But in Georgia, they are also starting to privatize prisons, which
Oh,
what could go wrong with that?
Money.
Well,
Like,
they've already done
so-
that in Texas.
So
yeah, and that's
you know,
also why they're criminalizing, the female body parts and functions, because they want to make us felons, take away our right to vote, so we can't change, the laws over our bodies and our bodies only for some reason.
God's will. Let's talk about God's will. Let's
God's will
Viagra.
is a
Because
lamp
if your dick
dick.
can't get hard, that's just it. You hit a certain age, it happens. Nothing
Yeah.
to be ashamed of. It just happens.
Yeah.
God's will.
Hey, our tits
I'm
are
not
gonna
sure,
get
guys. No more
saggy. It
Viagra.
happens. You
No
gotta
more
Gravity
Cialis.
kicks in.
It's fine.
No more boner pills to buy from Alex Jones. None. You're done.
Honest to
God's
God,
will.
so my dad was a veteran, and he was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and they would send him his insulin, but they'd also send him Viagra. That man had a stockpile of Viagra that is probably worth millions. I'm just telling you. And I'm gonna say it has to do with really good genes. I got none of them, but we're gonna say it's because of that. But the man would have to wait for his goddamn insulin. But those blue pills would show up on time every fucking
Boner
time.
pills.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
are
Oh
you
my
kidding
God.
me? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But let's think about all the so female healthcare, again, going back to this, for centuries, medical research has been done on white men, which, okay, I understand that 100 years ago, they might have thought, well, that makes sense. There's plenty of them. But now we know that there are differences in the body, not just because of gender, but also because of ethnicity and for another and variation within all of those. And so we are so behind on understanding how disease and things affect women in particular, but ethnicities as well, which is leading to more death and more, medical expenses and so forth. And they're acting like the idea of including women in medical studies is the most outrageous thing ever.
Right.
But
And you're
we
like,
need that. We need research.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I mean, does
Well,
it
that's the thing.
surprise
They don't
you?
give a shit about us. We don't have penises. What
Yeah.
worth do we have?
Right.
We're
Right.
just
Now-
baby makers to make able-bodied workers so they can send them to the factories.
Exactly. Exactly.
Um,
That's my thing. If they'd spent all the money they spent on devising all of these boner pills on, I don't know, some other medical, we probably could have cured cancer.
Cancer research,
Yeah.
Exactly. But a hard dick is more important than a living woman.
Yeah.
Yep. Most definitely.
We're always low
one
man
other
on totem pole.
one thing I wanted to kind of bring up too is, Trump's little tirade to Time Magazine about his dictatorship. He wants to allow red states to monitor blue states and their own states pregnancies so that they can. And I'm just like, okay, so ladies out there, if you're thinking of like, uh, voting for this dude, do you really want somebody monitoring your, like, just out of principle, do you want somebody monitoring your periods in a database?
Or your kids.
And like,
or your
if
kids?
you,
Because over my dead body, I told
No,
my
no.
daughter she is not to give any information to a school.
I told mine the same. She's 25. I'm like, don't put
Yep.
anything,
I was like,
any
and you know what?
tracker or anything.
You tell them to call me. There is no reason. There is no reason the school needs to know about your period, your cycle. There's absolutely no reason. And if you know what, if you get suspended over this, guess what? I'm going to make it public knowledge that you got suspended because of this, and I took you out for ice cream. This is not
no reason
happening
in the world for anyone else to need to know about your cycle. And there's a million different reasons why you may miss a period. I mean, particularly early and late in your menstrual journey, it will be inconsistent because, hello, weird, the hormonal shit's happening. But there's a million other reasons in between that have nothing to do with pregnancy. Like, it could be you were really sick, or you were really stressed. Or just something weird. Like, I don't know what.
Or if you're an athlete and you work out like several hours a day, your period is going to be irregular, or you may not even get it.
Yeah.
Olympic level female athletes don't get their periods for years, particularly gymnasts and swimmers, because they have so little body fat. But it doesn't mean they're fucking pregnant or anything.
No.
And are they going to use this information to be like, hey, she hasn't had a period in a while. Maybe something's medically wrong. Maybe she has ovarian cancer. No, they're going to be like,
or maybe she had
an abortion.
Maybe she had an abortion, and then it's that girl's responsibility to prove she didn't have an abortion, or be sent to
and
prison.
Even birth control, because birth control is not always primarily not really used for birth control. It's used for girls to help with their periods, either to get it on track, to help you bleed less. I mean, and less. I mean,
acne.
I mean, because when your hormones change, it changes. All hormones are connected to everything.
Everything
in women. Sorry, that's just the way that is.
I've been on Prozac since I was 25, and it's literally for PMDD. And doctors for years were like, you're a little sad, try to have more fun. And I'm like, really? I see a gynecologist for the first time. Yes, 25 was way too late. We're not going to talk about that. But anyway, and she talked to me for 5 minutes, and she goes, yeah, I think you have PMDD. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? And she's like, does this happen to you? Does this happen to you? Does this happen to you? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, yeah, it's your hormones fluctuating. That's why that's why you can't stop crying. That's why you're, anxious all the time. That's what all this is happening. And I never would have known. And because it's a gynecologist, if they have their way, would she even be able to prescribe that medication to someone? And I have friends that use birth control for a similar reason, to stabilize their moods because of the hormonal fluctuations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with pregnancy. It has to do with,
and also,
I just want to kill people today.
Some menopausal women who can take hormone replacement. I can't, because there's just been too much breast cancer. And the women, it's not for BRCA, but it's hormonally fed. So I'm out. Like my mother had she had 5 sisters, and 3 or 4 of them had breast cancer, because when they went into menopause, they took hormone. And so I couldn't even take that. So, and I feel bad. I wish there was something that, stuff that they could develop for us to help us that people that can't take hormones. I know there's natural stuff out there, but sometimes that crap just doesn't work.
Well, and it's not regulated the same way, so it's not consistent dosage or anything.
But I did see, and it was Super Bowl, and they advertised this new medicine. Of course, we're the only place on the planet that plays medication commercials. Go see your doctor, But I saw that they were making a medication that's non-hormonal, but it helps with night sweats and all of that stuff. So I was like, and it's non-hormonal, and I'm like, I may have to ask about that. I don't know, but because I can't take hormones, so, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there.
I'm sure you're not. For how common breast cancer is. I'm sure that.
And in the birth control for other uses, and also the procedures that follow under the umbrella of abortion for other reasons. I was with women for most of my life, and 2 of my partners had serious health conditions that one of them had PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome.
And that's painful.
Painful as shit. Yeah. She said it was like giving birth to twins every couple of months. And she'd have to have a D&C, which is technically an abortion. Mm-hmm. Girl was a lifelong lesbian. Bitch never had sex with a man. To my knowledge, she still hasn't. And she's 40.
Ratchet, Mama Ratchet says we should go on a sex strike.
Dude, I've been saying this for a while. When you decide to keep your laws off our bodies, you can have sex again.
And then women should go on. Theron says we should go on an everything strike. I dig it.
Actually, June 21st, I think we are supposed to have a women's strike.
Really?
Are we really?
I
I'll double check the
first?
date.
Yeah, I'm putting it on my calendar.
Yeah, it's early June. It's late June, but it's like the Monday.
Is it the Women's March or is it or a different one?
June 24th. No, it's just an all women's strike. We're not supposed to do shit. Oh, and I've already taken that week off because it's my birthday weekend.
Girl.
I ain't doing shit. But no, I think seriously, and the women in Iceland did this. They've done it twice now, where they were like, "You're not going to pay us equal. You're not going to let us go."
Don't fuck them strike. Oh, I'm sorry. Like you can't.
Don't fuck them strike.
Sicko fit. Don't fuck them strike.
Oh,
here's the problem. Right back to the bear in the woods situation.
Yeah,
we don't have to consent because they don't give a fuck, or at least enough of them don't. And so, like, what are you going to do then? You know?
And a lot of them are perfectly content to watch porn and take care of it themselves. Like, it's kind of shocking how, like, like I don't see how fake can be. It's great, it can be great, but like, the real deal is often a little bit more fun. Having, fun with friends. And so, but, I just don't like, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, just not having agency over a body, no privacy.
I think the agency is the big deal. Is like, listen, I have to live in this motherfucker. And I have to deal with the consequences of that. So me and the medical professional who has studied this for years, we should be making that decision. Okay.
Yeah.
Because there is a shit ton of more research that they need to do on like PCOS and all these other things that, you know what I'm saying? That a lot of doctors don't believe women when they come in and say they're this and, but it is a thing.
It is.
Well, and we know that the hormones affect how medications affect your body. Mm-hmm. And so, like, particularly women of color are underprescribed pain medication. And you're like, you are making them suffer for no good goddamn reason, except that you do not believe their experience. They're telling you what their body is saying, and you're saying, you don't know your body. I know your body. And you're like, motherfucker.
Yeah.
You're overreacting. Yeah. Not that
like
bad.
I've never been pregnant and I've never given birth, but like my mother described it as passing a watermelon through a lemon. And that was enough for me to say, that's not for me. But like, if you can do that and you say, hey, listen, this is a 10, bitch, that's a 10. You know what pain is,
Yeah.
I had an epidural. So like pain, I went from ready to punching somebody in the face to like giggling. And let me tell you, it's still like,
I don't forget that pain.
Like, it may not have felt like searing and like all the stuff happening, but it's still not comfortable. It's still like god awful. Like,
I mean, more likely than not, you are still going to rip some of your flesh. It's just gonna happen.
Well, that's part of what happened. My daughter, because like it was a wild time having Dory, and she was overdue. He had to induce me, and I had a man doctor. I don't know what I was thinking at that time. Somebody slapped me because that dude did not give two damn fucks. He was like, and it just, usually with Pitocin, they come in every so often and up it.
Yeah.
No, my dude just said, he just upped it all the way.
Holy shit.
And I thought I was being tortured, and he wouldn't give me an epidural. I thought I was being tortured. It was like being tortured.
Honey, you come
my mother
over.
had an illegal saddle block with me.
And I was like, but once, I mean, I went hours and hours and hours and hours. And he's like, because he didn't want to give me the epidural because, it might slow down. I'm like, but once they gave me the epidural, that's when I dilated. That's when things got started. Is when you gave me the epidural. We could have done this 2 hours ago, 5
Thank
hours
you,
ago.
When your
Ratchet.
body's in pain, it clenches down. It's like,
Yeah.
we give birth to a baby right now, we dying.
Yeah,
You know?
I never dilated, and my kids were like trying to get out of me, and they got the umbilical wrapped around them. So both of mine were emergency C-sections, and then another surgery for a hemorrhage, and then a blood clot, and then a rehospitalization, and then shots for 6 months, and then shots before, or during my second pregnancy, and for 6 months after. I mean, pregnancy is a nightmare, guys.
It is.
No one gets out unscathed, and like I have a connective tissue disorder, and my connective tissues have never been the same. And it kicks sometimes if you have an autoimmune disorder or a latent one. Oftentimes pregnancy, because it's such a trauma to the body, will activate that. And, you'll be so young and start having all these problems going, what is happening to me?
Because I thought I was in so much pain. My body is fighting itself going, no, because I couldn't relax or something. Because once I got the epidural.
Well, and that's something we need to talk about too.
Oh, I wanted to say hi to Suzanne because I saw her message pop up. And
thank you all for being some of the first. You're a little
first
the crew. You're the first. You're like our little first little group of minions.
This is our first episode, so
So thank you for
thank you for being here.
Finding us helpful, or just cheering us on.
We'll be due to wrap up here in a few minutes. So do we want to begin closing before we get into something? Because I know we could go all night talking about
that. So we also forgot I forgot to check on the what you call it, the
chat.
No, not the chat, the stage in Discord. So
I have it up.
Or is everybody pretty much on YouTube
Derek,
at this?
Our voluntary monitor says that they have been mostly watching and in YouTube in particular. And there's been a couple of comments which we've seen, like Ratchet's comments and so forth. But
okay.
What I was going to say, and this can help us wrap it up, is you were talking about all the complications from giving birth. One of my friends from college gave birth 6 years ago, and at the time, it of course rips the connective tissue right in the front, and it caused something almost not quite a prolapse, but sort of, and a hernia. And 6 years later, it started acting up. So she's having emergency surgery coming up earlier today. But what we keep forgetting is that, and this is why I didn't have children. I cannot speak on how bad pregnancy is. I've never experienced it, and I never, God damn, better never. But yes, I was looking at Derek as I said that.
I know.
But
don't you do it, Derek? We're watching you.
That's right.
Got her eyes on you.
Dude, I had to have a episiotomy, and they slipped because my daughter's head was so big. Apparently, they cut me from. I mean, y'all.
Shit, stem stern.
Let me tell you, afterwards, that was the most painful, crapping thing, and the stitches, and literally, like you're like trying to sit down with the baby, right?
Can't sit.
Catch a stitch. How about accidentally catching a stitch and going, stitch gets pulled out. You're sitting there with hot water under the stitches going,
They act like you shoot out a kid, and now it's just this glorious moment of holding
a baby. And then they cut you from.
Yeah, but now your body's got all this trauma, and you have to recover from that. Like your shit, you've gone through some shit. We won't even get into today what happens during the actual pregnancy, but in the labor delivery portion of that, you undergo some serious ass trauma, and odds are you're going to need stitches of some kind, and you're probably going to have some internal muscle issues that you don't even know about. You may never pee normally again.
Yeah.
Really quick before everyone starts heading out, I just wanted to take a minute to thank our very good friend Tony Michaels for letting us use his shit. And we're not obviously streaming to his YouTube channel, but he is letting me use his software.
Tony.
So we really appreciate the support of all you dive bar guys too, who have just, either helped us with, I don't know if I can make I never do it right, but, it's for
There you go.
cheering us on and helping us do stuff that we don't know how to do. So I appreciate y'all, and hopefully we'll be back next week, and maybe it'll be a little more organized, and we'll have like cooler shit.
But
And
we just wanted to keep it real. We just kind of wanted
Yeah.
just to have a conversation, like
like we'll
women
have
do.
theme music and like cooler but I think we did better than like our goal was like what did we say our goal was, like pretty good? So I think
above adequate.
above
That's what we were
adequate
aiming
was our
for.
goal, so.
I think we fucking nailed it, ladies.
I hope we did well, and I hope we get good feedback.
Yeah, so we'll see you next week, hopefully.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by, man.
Thanks.
Come back next week.
And if anybody thinks of questions between now and next week, let us know. We
Most
can do anonymous
definitely.
questions. Anything you've ever wanted to ask a lady and never did, we're here for it.
I wanted to say I appreciate Tony, and a lot of the dudes on Discord have said this
Yes.
too, that they cannot speak to the female experience. That's what this was born out of, was them saying that they can't speak out of it, and that they needed, the women's voice needed to be heard. And so we were like, well, we women, let's talk, you know? And so thank you so much for giving us that space to do that, but also recognizing that we can't speak to your
such a good
experience.
ally. Like, it's
Thank you.
like men really don't like listen to us, like even though they do listen to us, but not really. Like, they really get it when it comes from another dude.
We need them to back us up as fervently as they back each other up. It's like, fuck yeah, she's fucking right. Listen to her.
Let's educate them. I mean, I am not ashamed or to talk about anything. And if anybody's got questions, because this is just a crazy time, and we need all the help we can get from any.
And some women don't really understand what's going on. Like they're trapped in like one little bubble. Yeah. Not that they're trapped per se, but it's very easy to like fall into an information silo. So maybe they stumble on this, or somebody says, "Oh, I watched this like, these ladies talking about, and just, you never know how people stumble upon your shit, even though there's an algorithm and all that. Still, it's, you still have a chance of, people finding it. And, a lot of women don't, most, as we read in Dr. Rachel Bidicoffer's book, Hit 'Em Where It Hurts, most people aren't engaged like us in politics. Like we're like junkies, and we know what's going. We know most people barely know who the vice president is. Maybe with Kamala Harris, it's a little different because she's the first female vice president. But like it's. I mean, we could probably name at least 5 cabinet members of Biden's cabinet. Like most people can't even name like Secretary of State or Secretary of Defense, like the big ones. So.
We're beautiful, magical unicorns, ladies.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Or gluttons for punishment, or a beautiful blend of both.
There's that.
So, all right, friends. We will see y'all next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.